Commander Zibnall had seen fear before. Hell, he had caused it plenty of times. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the terror that swept through the Galactic Detention Center when Cell Block 7 went silent. "Sir, we have a problem," squeaked Technician Blix from his control station, his forearms trembling as he manipulated the holographic displays. "The human in Cell 77 Alpha. She is awake." Zibnall felt his primary heart skip a beat. His secondary heart picked up the slack, pumping ice-cold blood through his veins. "Which human?" "The one without a name, sir. The one they brought in 3 cycles ago." Of course it was her. It was always her. Zibnall had been running this facility for 12 standard years. He had housed the galaxy's most dangerous criminals, from the flesh-eating warlords of Sector 9 to the mind-benders of the Outer Rim. None of them had ever made his staff request transfers just from being in the same building. But this human, this small, seemingly fragile creature with brown hair and confused green eyes, she had half his guards demanding reassignment within hours of her arrival. "Show me," Zibnall commanded, his voice steadier than he felt. The main screen flickered to life, displaying the interior of Cell 77 Alpha. The human sat on her narrow bunk, staring at her hands with the same puzzled expression she had worn for 3 days straight. She looked ordinary, harmless, Eve about 5.5 feet tall, maybe 130 pounds. No visible weapons, no obvious augmentations. So why did looking at her make Zibnall's survival instinct scream at him to run? "Sir," Blix whispered, Should we increase security protocols?" "What protocols?" Zibnall snorted. "We already have her in our highest security cell. Force field walls, gravity manipulators, atmospheric controls, the works. What more do you want me to do? Evacuate the entire station?" The silence that followed was telling, very telling. "Commander," came a new voice from behind him. Zibnall turned to see Captain Thakral, his head of security, standing in the doorway. The veteran soldier looked like he had seen a ghost. "We need to talk, privately." Zibnall followed Thakral to his office, noting how the other staff members gave them a wide berth. Once the door sealed, Thakral activated the privacy shields and turned to face his superior. "I know who she is," Thakral said without preamble. "Impossible." The Galactic Council said her memory was wiped. Total neural restructuring. She does not even remember her own name. "Her name does not matter," Thakral replied, his usually steady voice shaking. "What matters is what she did, what she is capable of doing." Zibnall settled into his chair, feeling suddenly very tired. "Enlighten." Thakral pulled up a holographic display, his clawed fingers dancing over the controls. 3 years ago, the human military contacted the Galactic Council about a situation. One of their soldiers had gone rogue. Not defected, not turned traitor. Rogue. As in completely lost contact with reality and started treating the entire galaxy as a threat to be eliminated. And in the span of 6 months, she single-handedly crippled 3 separate alien invasion fleets, destroyed 2 military space stations, and turned an entire sector of space into what the humans call a no-fly zone. Zibnall blinked slowly. "That is impossible. No single being could—" "She did not do it with weapons, Commander. She did it with her mind. Strategic thinking that made our best tactical computers look like children's toys. She would study an enemy for hours, find their weakness and exploit it so thoroughly that they would surrender before she fired a single shot." The room fell silent except for the hum of the station's life support systems. "The humans called her their greatest military asset." Thakral continued. "They also called her their greatest threat. When she went rogue, they spent 2 years trying to stop her." 2 years, Commander. The entire human military plus allied alien forces against one woman. How did they finally capture her? They did not capture her. She turned herself in. That got Zibnall's attention. What? She walked into a human military base, alone and unarmed, and surrendered. Just like that. When they asked her why, she said she was tired of being afraid of herself. Zibnall stared at the screen showing the human in her cell. She was still examining her hands, turning them over slowly as if she had never seen them before. So the humans wiped her memory, not the humans. The Galactic Council. They decided she was too dangerous to execute, and too dangerous to leave intact. So they erased everything. Her name, her past, her training. everything that made her who she was, but not her capabilities. No, Thextral said grimly. Apparently those run deeper than memory. As if summoned by their conversation, an alarm began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and Ziffing could hear panicked voices echoing from the command center. "What now?" he muttered, rushing back to the main control room. Technician Blix was frantically working at his station, sweat beading on his blue-scaled forehead. "Commander, we have a massive system failure in Cell Block 7. Define massive. All security systems are down. Life support is fluctuating. The force field generators are operating at 12% power." Ziffing felt his blood turn to ice. "Is she escaping?" "No, sir. That is the strange part. She is still in her cell. She has not moved from her bunk." "Then what is causing the failures?" Blix's voice dropped to a whisper. "We do not know, sir. The systems just started shutting down on their own." Ziffing looked at the monitor again. The human was no longer staring at her hands. Instead, she was looking directly at the camera. Directly at him. She smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was not evil or malicious. It was the kind of smile someone might give when they suddenly remembered something important. Something they had forgotten for a very long time. "Commander," Ziffing said quietly, "I think she is starting to remember." "That is impossible. The memory wipe was irreversible. Tell that to our security systems." Another alarm joined the first. Then another. Throughout the station, lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. "Sir," Blix called out, his voice cracking with terror. "The main computer is trying to access classified files, military records, tactical databases, personnel information. It is as if someone is searching for something. Lock down the system. I cannot. The commands are being overridden." "By what?" "I do not know." Zeeks Null grabbed the communication device from his belt. "All security teams to Cell Block 7. Full tactical gear. Now." "Sir," Zeeks Ral said, placing a hand on his commander's arm, "I do not think that is a good idea." "Why not?" "Because the last time someone tried to use force against her, she turned their own weapons against them. Every shot they fired, every explosive they detonated, she somehow redirected back at them." "You are telling me she can control projectiles with her mind?" "No, Commander. I am telling you she can predict exactly where those projectiles will go, calculate precisely how to deflect them, and do it all while fighting 15 trained soldiers at once." The lights in the command center suddenly stabilized. The alarms stopped blaring. The red emergency lighting faded back to normal. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. "Status report," Zeetrings ordered. Blix worked at his controls with shaking fingers. "All systems are functioning normally, sir. Security is back online. Life support is stable. Force fields are at full power. And the human? Still in her cell, sir. She appears to be sleeping." Zeetrings did not believe that for a second. "Show me." The monitor displayed Cell 77 Alpha. The human was lying on her bunk, eyes closed, breathing steady. She looked peaceful. "Innocent." "Commander," Blix said hesitantly, "there is something else. The computer system that was compromised. It accessed the personnel files for everyone on this station. Every guard, every technician, every administrator. What was it looking for? I think it was learning about us. Our routines, our backgrounds, our psychological profiles." A chill ran down Zeetring's spine. She was gathering intelligence. Without even leaving her cell, Zeetring's confirmed. Just like she used to do. The intercom crackled to life, and a soft feminine voice filled the command center, the human's voice. "Hello," she said, her tone friendly and conversational. "I hope I have not caused too much trouble. I was just trying to remember something." Zeetring's grabbed the communication controls. "You are supposed to be in maximum security containment. How are you accessing our systems?" "Oh, that." There was a pause, as if she was considering how to explain something complex to a child. "I think I used to be good with computers. The knowledge is still there, somewhere in the back of my mind. Like riding a bicycle, you know? What do you want to understand why everyone is so afraid of me? I mean, I look pretty harmless, right? 5'6", brown hair, green eyes. I could not hurt a fly. The Corral leaned over to whisper in Zichengzral's ear. She just described herself perfectly. Without looking in a mirror, the human continued speaking. I have been thinking about what I might have done to end up here. It must have been something pretty terrible to warrant this level of security. And the neural restructuring. That could not have been pleasant. Your past is not our concern, Zichengzral replied. You are here to serve your sentence. What sentence? For what crime? I do not remember committing any crimes. Memory loss does not erase guilt. There was another pause. When the human spoke again, her voice had changed. It was still soft, still feminine, but there was something underneath it now. Something cold. You know what I find interesting, Commander Zichengzral. That is your name, right? I found it in your personnel file. You have been running this facility for 12 years. In that time, you have successfully contained over 3,000 dangerous criminals. Your record is spotless. What is your point? My point is that in 12 years of dealing with the galaxy's worst, you have never once requested additional security measures for a single prisoner. Until me. Why do you think that is? Seize. Null remained silent. I think, the human continued, it is because deep down you know exactly who I am. You know what I am capable of. You just do not want to admit it. We know what you did, Thakral spoke up. We know about the invasion fleets, the space stations, the entire sector you turned into a graveyard. Ah! The human's voice brightened, as if he had just solved a puzzle. So that is why you are all so terrified. You think I am going to snap and turn this station into scrap metal. The thought had occurred to us. Well, here is the thing, Captain. I do not remember doing any of those things. But I am starting to remember how. The temperature in the command center seemed to drop 10 degrees. Let me guess, the human went on, her voice taking on an almost conversational tone. 3 invasion fleets, you said. I probably identified their command structures first, found the ships that were coordinating the attacks. Then I would have looked for weaknesses in their formations, gaps in their communication protocols. After that it would just be a matter of exploiting those weaknesses to turn the fleets against each other. She paused, and when she continued, there was something like wonder in her voice. I can see it now. How I would have done it. It is all still there like a blueprint in my head. The tactical analysis, the strategic planning, the ability to see patterns that others miss. You are describing impossible feats, Zuxnol said. No, Commander. I am describing Tuesday. The silence that followed was deafening. You want to know the really scary part? The human asked. I do not think I was trying to destroy those fleets. I think I was trying to protect something. Someone. But I cannot remember what. Or who. It does not matter, Zuxnol said firmly. Your memory was wiped for the safety of the galaxy. Was it? Or was it wiped? Etius. Someone was afraid of what I might remember. Before anyone could respond, every screen in the command center flickered and displayed the same image. A star chart showing the local sector, with dozens of red dots marking what appeared to be ship positions. What is this? Zuxnol demanded. Your current strategic situation, the human replied. 17 Korth battleships, 12 Nexus destroyers, and what looks like a small Ravager scout fleet, all converging on this station. The Kothwal went pale. How did you know about the incoming attack? Simple. I hacked your long-range sensors about 10 minutes ago. You have approximately 6 hours before they arrive. That is classified information. Not anymore. The human's voice was maddeningly calm. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Zuxnol stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. An attack of this magnitude would overwhelm the station's defenses easily. They would need to evacuate, but there was not enough time to move all the prisoners. Why are you telling us this? He asked. Because, the human said, I think they are coming for me. What makes you think that? Call it intuition. Or maybe it is something else. Something I am starting to remember. The display changed, zooming in on one of the approaching fleets. Data scrolled across the screen, identifying ship types, crew complements, weapon systems. The lead Korth battleship is the Bone Crusher, the human continued. Captain Vector commanding. He lost his brother in the Battle of Kepler Station 3 years ago. I remember that battle now. You remember? Bits and pieces enough to know that Captain Vector has a very personal reason for wanting me dead. Zuxnol felt his world tilt. You destroyed Kepler Station. I defended it against a Korth invasion force led by Vector's brother. I saved 40,000 civilian lives that day. By destroying an entire fleet? By making them destroy each other. There is a difference. The tactical display shifted again, showing detailed schematics of the approaching ships. Weak points were highlighted in red, escape routes marked in green. I can stop them, the human said quietly. What? I can stop them, all of them. I can save this station and everyone on it. How? The same way I saved Kepler Station. The same way I stopped 3 invasion fleets and turned a sector of space into a no-fly zone. By being very, very good at my job. Zexnol's throat was dry. What job? I think, the human said. And for the first time since her arrival she sounded completely certain. I used to be a soldier. The lights in the command center flickered once, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Commander, Blix whispered. Long-range sensors are confirming the human's data. Multiple fleets approaching fast. ETA, 5 hours, 57 minutes. Zexnol looked at the screen showing Cell 77 Alpha. The human was sitting up now, her green eyes focused and alert. She was no longer the confused, lost creature they had been guarding. She was something else entirely. What do you want in return? He asked. My freedom. Impossible. Then enjoy dying with honor, Commander. I hear it is very noble. The Sextral stepped forward. What guarantee do we have that you will not turn on us? None whatsoever, the human replied cheerfully. For all you know, this is all part of some elaborate escape plan. Maybe I contacted those fleets myself. Maybe this is exactly what I wanted to happen. Is it? I honestly have no idea. My memory is still mostly gone. But here is what I do know. In about 6 hours, this station is going to be a smoking crater unless someone does something about those ships. And right now, I am your only option. Le Sextral closed his eyes, weighing his choice. Trust a memory-wiped human who had once been the galaxy's most dangerous rogue operative, or watch his station and everyone on it get vaporized by 3 hostile fleets. Some choice. If I release you, he said slowly, what exactly do you plan to do? I plan to remember who I am, the human said. And then I plan to remind everyone else why they were afraid of me in the first place. The countdown timer on the tactical display ticked down another minute. 5 hours, 56 minutes until arrival. Signal looked at his staff, saw the fear in their eyes, and made his decision. Blix, he said, prepare to deactivate the containment field in Cell 77 Alpha. Sir? You heard me, Commander, Thekral protested. We could be making a terrible mistake. Captain, Signal replied. We are about to find out just how terrible. He activated the communication system one more time. Human, what is your name? There was a long pause. When she answered, her voice was different again. Stronger, more confident. I do not know my name, she said, but I remember my call sign, which is Storm. And as if the universe itself was responding to her words, every light on the station flickered in perfect synchronization. The countdown continued. 5 hours, 55 minutes. And Storm was about to wake up. The containment field around Cell 77 Alpha shimmered and died with a soft whisper of displaced energy. For a moment nothing happened. Then the door slid open with a hiss that seemed to echo through the entire station. Storm stepped out. She moved differently now. Gone was the confused shuffle of a lost prisoner. Her steps were measured, purposeful, predatory. She walked like someone who owned every space she entered. Well, she said, looking around the corridor with apparent interest, this is nice. Very institutional. I approve of the lighting choices. 3 security guards stood frozen at the far end of the hallway, weapons drawn but hands shaking. Storm glanced at them and smiled, that same friendly smile that had terrified Commander Zixnall earlier. Boys, she said conversationally, you might want to put those down before you hurt yourselves. Ma'am, one of the guards stammered, we have orders to escort you to the command center. How thoughtful. Lead the way. The journey through the station was surreal. Word had spread fast, and every alien they passed either pressed themselves against the walls or found urgent business elsewhere. Storm seemed completely oblivious to the effect she was having. Nice place you have here, she commented to one of the guards. Very clean. Good structural integrity. Excellent sightlines for defense. Someone put real thought into this design. Thank you, ma'am. Of course, if I were attacking this station, I would probably come in through the docking bay on level 5. Minimal security coverage there. Or maybe the waste processing center on level 3. No one ever guards the garbage chutes properly. The guard went pale. Ma'am, please do not give us any ideas. Oh, I am not giving you ideas. I am giving you homework. When they reached the command center, Storm paused at the entrance and surveyed the room. Every eye was on her, and she took her time studying each face. Commander Zorgmau, she said finally. Captain Thackrau, Technician Blix, and about 15 other staff members whose names I now know thanks to your delightfully insecure personnel database. She walked to the center of the room and turned slowly, taking in the tactical displays, control stations, and monitoring equipment. This will do nicely, she said. Now let me see those sensor readings. Human, Zorgmau began. You need to understand that, Commander, Storm interrupted, her voice sharp as a blade. We have 5 hours and 47 minutes before this station becomes a debris field. I suggest we skip the speeches and get to work. The main display lit up with the approaching fleets. Storm studied it for exactly 30 seconds, then nodded. Right, 17 Korth battleships, 12 Nexus destroyers and a Ravager scout fleet. Total complement, approximately 40,000 troops. Combined firepower sufficient to crack a small moon. Can you stop them? The Sekral asked. Storm tilted her head, as if considering a mildly interesting puzzle. Stop them? Captain, I am going to make them wish they had never left their home systems. She moved to the nearest control console. Blix, I need access to the station's communication array. All frequencies. All channels. Ma'am, that requires command authorization. I am giving it, Zakmelu said quickly. Storm's fingers danced across the controls with frightening efficiency. Thank you. Now I also need access to the station's defensive systems, the prisoner transport schedules, and the kitchen's meal preparation database. The kitchen? Trust me. Within minutes, Storm had multiple displays running simultaneously. She seemed to be monitoring everything at once. Fleet positions, communication intercepts, personnel movements, even the station's power consumption patterns. Fascinating, she murmured. Captain Vector has made some interesting tactical choices. He is leading with his heavy cruisers, keeping the destroyers in reserve. Classic Korth formation. Predictable. Predictable how? Unzixnal asked. Well, for starters, he is broadcasting on encrypted Korth military frequencies, but he has not changed the encryption since Kepler Station. I can read every order he gives. Storm's fingers moved across the controls again. Suddenly, the room filled with harsh alien voices speaking in the guttural Korth language. Translation, Storm said helpfully. Captain Vector just ordered his fleet to prepare for a full assault. No survivors, no prisoners. They want to turn this entire station into space dust. Why? Blix whispered. Because they think I am still the same person who killed Vector's brother. They do not realize that the woman who did that is gone. Is she? Vector asked, quietly. Storm paused, her hands hovering over the controls. For a moment her confident facade cracked, and something vulnerable flickered across her face. I do not know, she admitted. But I guess we are about to find out. She turned back to the displays. Blix, I need you to send a message to the Korth fleet. Open channel all frequencies. What do you want to say? Hello, Vector. This is Storm. I know you can hear me. The tactical display showed the approaching fleets slowing slightly, as if the captains were conferring. I do not remember killing your brother, Storm continued, her voice carrying across the void. I do not remember Kepler Station or the battles or any of it, but I remember enough to know that you are making a mistake. A new voice crackled through the speakers, speaking heavily accented standard. Human, you will pay for what you did. Captain Vector, I presume. Charming accent. Listen, I have a proposition for you. I do not negotiate with murderers. Sure you do. You negotiated with the Nexus fleet when they attacked your supply lines last year. You negotiated with the Ravagers when they threatened your shipping routes. You are very reasonable when it suits you. There was silence from the Korth fleet. Here is my offer, Storms. Turn around, go home, and pretend this never happened. In exchange, I will not do to your fleet what I apparently did to your brothers. You are one human on a space station. You have no weapons. Storm glanced around the command center and her smile returned. Vexter, has anyone ever told you about human military doctrine? What? Human military doctrine? It is based on a very simple principle. Anything can be a weapon if you are creative enough. She turned to Zaxnal. Commander, this station has a Class 7 industrial replicator, correct? Yes, but, and a full supply of raw materials for manufacturing replacement parts? Of course. Excellent. Blix, I need you to access the replicator and fabricate something for me. What? Storm rattled off a series of technical specifications so complex that Blix had to record them just to keep up. When she finished, the technician stared at the data in confusion. Ma'am, this appears to be a communication device. Among other things. How long to manufacture? 20 minutes, maybe 25. Make it 15. And while you are doing that, I need to borrow Captain Theckrail. The security chief looked suspicious. For what? I need you to gather every prisoner in cell block 3 and move them to the recreation area. Why? Because in approximately 4 hours, cell block 3 is going to be strategically evacuated. Evacuated to where? Into space, along with about half of level 7. The command center fell silent. You are going to blow up part of the station? Zixnall asked incredulously. Not blow up, relocate. There is a difference. Explain. Storm turned back to the tactical display. The Korth fleet is approaching in a standard attack formation. They expect us to either surrender or mount a conventional defense. They are not expecting us to turn our own station into a weapon. That is insane. That is human. She manipulated the display, highlighting different sections of the station. Cell Block 3 has an external docking port that can be explosively detached. Level 7 contains the station's primary waste processing system, which includes a very powerful mass driver for launching garbage into space. Understanding dawned on Theckral's face. You are going to turn the station into a projectile launcher. Bet I am going to turn the station into a railgun. Storm's fingers flew across the controls, bringing up engineering schematics and power distribution charts. The waste processing system uses magnetic accelerators to launch debris at roughly 12,000 meters per second. If we reconfigure the power coupling and rewrote the main reactor output, we can increase that to about 40,000 meters per second. And launch what exactly? Cell Block 3. All 15,000 tons of it. Blix nearly fell out of his chair. That will destroy the block. That is the point. When it hits the lead Korth battleship, the kinetic energy will be equivalent to a small nuclear warhead. What about the prisoners? Already thought of that. We evacuate them first, obviously. I am ruthless, not genocidal. The communication system crackled to life again. Human, you have 3 hours to surrender. Sorry, Vactor. Storm replied cheerfully. I am a bit busy right now. Can I call you back? She muted the channel and turned to Zixno. Commander, I need your authorization to implement emergency evacuation protocols for Cell Block 3. You are serious about this? Dead serious, pun intended. Zixno looked at his staff, then at the tactical display showing the approaching fleets. Do it! The next 3 hours were controlled mayhem. Prisoners were evacuated. Systems were rerouted, and Storm orchestrated it all from the command center with the efficiency of a conductor leading a symphony. She never seemed to stop moving. One moment she was recalibrating the magnetic accelerators. The next she was reviewing structural integrity reports. Then she was coordinating with the evacuation teams. She did everything with the same calm competence, as if launching space stations at enemy fleets was just another Tuesday. Ma'am, Blix reported, the device you requested is ready. Storm examined the small, innocuous-looking dies he handed her. Perfect. And the power coupling modifications. Complete. We can fire Cell Block 3 in approximately 30 minutes. Excellent. What about the Nexus fleet? Still maintaining formation. They have not deviated from their approach vector. Storm nodded thoughtfully. They will. Vector is about to do something very stupid. As if summoned by her words, the tactical display showed the Korth fleet suddenly accelerating. Instead of maintaining their careful formation, they were charging straight at the station. They are trying to overwhelm us with speed, Exaral observed. No, Storm said quietly. They are trying to get close enough to board us. Vector wants to take me alive. Is that possible? For him, not remotely. Storm activated the communication device Blix had built for her. It looked harmless enough, but when she spoke into it, Her voice was somehow amplified and broadcast on every frequency simultaneously. Captain Vector, you have made a tactical error. What error? You assumed I only had one weapon. The device in Storm's hand began to emit a low, pulsing hum. On the tactical display, something strange started happening to the core fleet. The ships began to slow, their formations breaking apart. What is happening to them? Nexarala Banan. Simple psychological warfare, Storm explained. That device is broadcasting a frequency that interferes with core neural patterns. Not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to make them extremely disoriented and nauseous. You can do that? Apparently, I must have studied Korth physiology at some point. On the display, several Korth ships were now drifting aimlessly. Others were firing randomly at empty space. However, Storm continued, the Nexus fleet is unaffected by that frequency, and the Ravagers are actually immune to it. So we still have a problem. Which is that I only have one shot with Cell Block 3, and there are still 29 enemy ships out there. She studied the tactical display for a long moment, then smiled. Unless what? Unless I can get them to line up properly. Storm's fingers danced across the controls again. Blix, I need you to broadcast a distress signal. Make it sound like we are about to suffer catastrophic reactor failure. But our reactor is fine. I know, that is the point. The distress signal went out, and almost immediately, the enemy fleets began to change formation. The Nexus destroyers moved closer, eager to claim the prize. The Ravager scouts spread out to prevent any escape. Perfect, Storm murmured. Greed makes people predictable. She waited until the fleets were exactly where she wanted them. Then nodded to Blix. Fire Cell Block 3. The station shuddered as 15,000 tons of metal and ceramics was launched into space at 40,000 meters per second. On the tactical display, it looked like a tiny dot racing toward the enemy fleet. It struck the lead Korth battleship dead center. The explosion was visible even from the command center. A brilliant flash of light, then expanding debris as the massive warship simply disintegrated. But Storm was not watching the explosion. She was watching the other ships. No, she said quietly. The destruction of the battleship sent a shockwave through space, and the debris cloud created by the impact spread outward at tremendous velocity. The Nexus destroyers, flying in tight formation to avoid the disoriented Korth ships, flew straight into the expanding field of high-velocity shrapnel. 3 destroyers died instantly. 4 more were crippled. The Ravager scouts, trying to maintain their encirclement pattern, found themselves caught between the debris cloud and the panicking remains of the Korth fleet. In less than 60 seconds, the combined enemy force had been reduced from 41 ships to 18. Impressive, de Secaral said quietly. I am not done yet, Storm replied. She activated the communications system again. Attention surviving vessels. This is Storm. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal, or I will demonstrate what happens when I get creative. You have no more weapons. Vector's voice crackled through the speakers. Vector, you really need to start paying attention. Storm gestured to the tactical display. I still have a space station. I still have a reactor. And I still have a very active imagination. She paused, letting that sink in. But more importantly, I have something else. Something I just remembered. What? The location of your home fleet. The tactical display shifted, showing a star chart of the local sector. Red indicators marked the positions of dozens of 47 Korth vessels, currently guarding your supply depot at Nexel Prime, your entire reserve fleet in fact. They are not expecting company. How do you know about Nexel Prime? Because 3 years ago I memorized the location of every major Korth military installation in this sector, along with their security codes, their patrol schedules, and the personal communication frequencies of their commanding officers. Storm's voice turned cold. I also remember the names and family details of every officer in your fleet, including yours, Vector. How is your daughter, by the way? Still attending the military academy on Korth 7. The silence from the enemy fleet was deafening. Now, Storm continued, here is what is going to happen. You are going to turn around and go home. You are going to forget this place exists. And in exchange, your families will continue to wake up tomorrow. You would not dare. Vector, I once turned an entire sector into a graveyard to protect a single space station. Do you really want to test my limits? Another long silence. All ships' Vecteur's voice came over the speakers, heavy with defeat. Withdraw to minimum safe distance. Storm watched the tactical display as the surviving enemy vessels began to pull back. Smart choice, she said. Within an hour, the enemy fleets were gone, jumping to hyperspace and leaving the station in peace. Storm stood in the command center, looking around at the aliens who had feared her, fought alongside her, and ultimately trusted her. Well, she said finally, that was education. What happens now? Zixnalar asked. Storm was quiet for a long moment. I remember more now. Not everything, but enough. I remember why I went rogue. Why? Because I was tired of being a weapon, tired of being the solution to everyone else's problems, tired of being feared. She turned to face him. I surrendered because I wanted to stop being what I was. The memory wipe was supposed to give me a fresh start. And did it? Storm looked at her hands, the same hands she had been studying in her cell just hours earlier. I do not know. I saved this station, but I also threatened the families of my enemies. I protected innocent lives, but I did it by destroying other lives. She looked up. Maybe the person I was is not as gone as I thought. What will you do now? I honestly do not know. The Galactic Council will want to put me back in a cell. The humans will want to recruit me again. Everyone will want something from me. She walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. But for the first time in a very long time, what I want might actually matter. What do you want? Storm was quiet for so long that Zixnal thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. I want to remember who I was before I became Storm. I want to find out if there is still a person under all the tactics and strategies and fear. And if there is no. She turned back to him, and for the first time since leaving her cell she looked uncertain. Then I guess the galaxy was right to be afraid of me. Storm walked toward the exit, then paused. Commander, when the Galactic Council asks what happened here, tell them the truth. Tell them that Storm is awake. Tell them she remembers. And tell them that next time they might want to consider negotiation before they send 41 ships to kill one confused woman. Where are you going? Storm smiled. And this time it was not the friendly smile or the cold smile or the confident smile. It was something new, something hopeful. To find out who I really am, she said, and to decide who I want to become. She left the command center, walking through corridors that no longer seemed afraid of her. She passed guards who nodded respectfully, technicians who smiled nervously, and prisoners who watched her with something that might have been hope. When she reached the docking bay, Storm paused and looked back at the station that had been her prison and briefly her battlefield. Then she commandeered a small transport ship and disappeared into the stars, leaving behind only questions and the lingering scent of ozone from the improvised railgun. In the command center, Zixnal stared at the tactical display showing empty space where 3 enemy fleets had been just hours before. Sir, Blix said quietly, should we report her escape to the authorities? Zixnal thought about the woman who had saved his station, protected his crew and shown mercy to enemies who had shown her none. Report what escape, he said finally. As far as I know, the prisoner in cell 77 Alpha died in the attack. Tragic loss. He turned away from the display. Besides, he added, something tells me the galaxy is going to need Storm again someday. And when that day comes, I would rather she be free to choose her own side. In the darkness of space, a small transport ship engaged its hyperdrive and vanished, carrying with it the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. The woman who had forgotten her name but remembered her purpose. The woman they called Storm.